Well, hello there, guys. I'm back again after the short break since I have been reading first two parts of reading Goosebumps Horror Land Monster Blood for Breakfast by R.L Stine. I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you enjoyed it so far, but it seems quite a bit spooked out. Seems rather haunting, obviously. Now, let's move on to continue reading Goosebumps Monster Blood for Breakfast on third part. Okay, so shall we continue reading on page 61? Are you sure you want to gather around, guys? Excellent. Now, let's start. The green goo bubbled and popped as it spread all over me. The putrid aroma swept over my face. I struggled not to gag. Desperate, I clawed at the goo over my chest. I tried desperately to dig my fingers into it. To pull. Yes. I plunged my fingers through the thick red goo, grabbed hold, and gave it a hard tug. Yes, it made a loud popping sound as I stretched it off my chest. I pulled a sticky goo between my hands and tugged harder. The monster blood stretched like elastic, then snapped off my body into two hands. I kept rolling it into a tight ball, tucking it off and rolling it. I clamped the gunk between my hands, pressing it tighter until it was the size of baseball. Now what? I was still gasping for air, my heart jackhammering. Monster blood was off my body, but I could still feel its sticky warmth. Could still smell it on my itching skin. I bubbled and popped between my hands. I staggered into the closet. I found a small duffel bag on the floor. Jammed it into the bag, sipped the bag shut, slammed the closet door, and collapsed into my bed. I stumbled down to breakfast the next morning. My eyes were red and burning. My head felt heavy as a rock. My whole body ached. I stepped into the kitchen and groaned. Who had enough to show up this morning? 3 guesses, and they are Bradley sir. He grinned at me, like everything was just perfect between us. What's up? He said. He raised a hand to slap me a high five, but I walked right past him. Look, dude, Bradley said, you don't have to share your cereal with me this morning. Your mom gave me my own bowl. He held up his cereal bowl like it was a prize. Thrills and chills. I muttered. I dropped into my chair across the table from him and ate my cereal. Levi sat next to Bradley. She was mashing up her scrambled egg with a fork. She likes to mash them flat. Don't ask me why. I checked to make sure my mom wasn't in the kitchen. I didn't want to tell her about the monster blood upstairs. Dad was out of town, so he can help. And I knew Mum would totally panic. I leaned over the table. Bradley listened to me. I whispered, We have a real problem. He tilted the cereal bowl to his mouth and made loud, slurping noises. Then he laughed. Then he thought it was a riot. I'm serious, I said in a loud whisper. The monster blood. It's totally out of control. It made my ivy plant grow. And it. Bradley snapped his fingers right in the front of Livy's nose. Stop it, Livy screamed. She jabbed Bradley with her elbow. Stop snapping in my face. Worm, I mean it. She elbowed him again. You hit my nose. He laughed. What nose? He cried. You call that a pimple in the nose? Shut up! Livy shouted. At least I don't look like a slimy worm. Bradley snapped his fingers in her face again. Bradley, listen to me. The two of them were going at each other. I had to shout at the top of my voice. We have to do something. My ivy plant. Mom burst into the kitchen. What's the racket? She cried, covering her ears. Go on, all of you. Get out of here. You're all going to be late. She put a hand on my shoulder. Daddy is so sorry to miss your swim meet this afternoon. I try my best to be here, she said, patting me. I am so proud of you, Matt. Thanks, I muttered. You won't be proud if I fell asleep in the pool, I thought. For the moment, I felt like telling her everything, telling her about my birdhouse project, about how Bradley almost got me kicked out of school, about how I had to fight the monster blood, how it was still upstairs in my closet, throbbing and bubbling. Would she believe any of it? Bradley and Livy had already headed out the front door. There wasn't time to tell it or to her. Besides, what could Mom say? How could she help me now? I had to find a way to deal with it. I stuck my head out the front door. I'll be right there, I shouted to Livy and Bradley. I hurried up the stairs to my room. I want to check the monster blood one more time. I wanted to make sure it hadn't burst out of the duffel bag. My heart was thundering in my chest. As I pulled open the door, the ceiling light flashed on. I let out a startled cry. The monster blood, it was gone! I dropped to my knees and studied at the bottom shelf, stared at the empty space where I had placed the duffel bag. I shut my eyes. How could this happen? How could it be disappeared? Finally, I climbed to my feet. I didn't want to be late on the day of swim meet. I shut the closet door behind me. The giant ivy plant cast a long, quivering shadow over my bed. The leaves were as big as my hand. The vines were as thick as my arms. Deal with it later, I told myself. Just get yourself into school. Concentrate on the swim meet. Shut this out of your head, mind. I forced my legs to move. I found Livy waiting for me at the curb. Bradley was already jogging across the street on his way to school. Livy flashed me a devilish grin. She grabbed my arm and pulled me to whisper in my ear, "Matt, you know what I did." Huh? I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She pulled me to the corner. Her grin hadn't faded. "I snuck into your room last night," she said. "I took the duffel bag out of the closet." My mouth dropped open. "How do you know about it? You were spying on me." She snapped my arm. "Listen, let me tell you what I did this morning. I took a gob of that gooey stuff out of a bag, and guess what? I put it in the Bradley cereal." She tossed her head back in and burst out laughing. I almost choked. My breath caught in my throat. "How could you?" I cried. She shrugged. "He deserved it," she said. "But, Livy, you don't understand that stuff." "I know. It tastes like yuck," Livy said. She giggled, but Bradley didn't even notice. "Did you see him? He gobbled down the whole bowl." She went skipping across the street to her school. I watched her meet up with 3 or 4 other girls. They were all talking at once. I wondered if Livy would tell them about the really awesome joke she pulled. Some joke. My head was spinning without knowing it. Bradley ate a gob of monster blood. Had Livy poisoned Bradley? Was he going to get horribly ill or worse? I pictured the ivy plant spreading its enormous vines and leaves over my room. Was Bradley already ballooning up into the giant? I gulped a deep breath of a warm morning air. Then I took off, racing to school. Kenny and Jake, my buddies on the swim team, called to me from a corner. I gave them a quick wave, lowered my head, and kept running. A few minutes later, I dodged through the groups of kids in the halls. I burst into Mr. Scotto's room. "Bradley, Bradley!" My eyes darted frantically. Around the classroom, I spotted Bradley in his seat, leaning over to open his backpack, and raised his head when he heard me shouting his name. Struggling to catch my breath, I stared at him. He looked the same. He hadn't started to grow. I grabbed Bradley by the shoulders and began to pull him from his chair. "Hurry," I choked out. "You've got to see a nurse." He laughed. "Have you gone wacko? I'm not ill." I held on to his shirt. "It's no joke," I said. "I swear. You have to go see a nurse. Right now." He pushed my hands away. "No way," he said. "You're crazy." Kids were staring at me. Us. "Are they fighting again?" I heard the girls ask. I glanced to the front of the room. Mrs. Scatter wasn't there yet. I turned back to Bradley. "Please," I said. "I'm your friend, right? Get up. Please, I'll take you to a nurse." Bradley didn't budge. He grinned at me. "Hey, guess what?" he said. I stared at him. "What?" I saw your sister put something in my cereal bowl at breakfast, Bradley said. So? Know what I did? I switched bowls with you, Matt. Ha ha! You ate my cereal? Have you ever been on one of those amusement park rides? They rolls around and round, and the floor drops out of her beneath you, and you're left spinning in midair. How's I felt? The whole room span. The floor tilted up, then down. Bradley sniggered. Matt, you okay? I didn't answer. I felt wrecked. Dizzy. I didn't answer. I wheeled away from him and dropped into my seat. I gazed down at my hands and feet. Wasn't I growing? No, everything was still the same. I pictured my ivy plant. Was my head going to stretch up to the ceiling in a few minutes? Was that green gook going to turn me into a total freak in front of a whole classroom? Mrs. Scotto stepped into the room. He moved to the chalkboard and began talking. He pointed to the map he had drawn in yellow chalk. What was he talking about? I don't know. I couldn't concentrate on anything he said. I kept hearing the bubble and pop of monster blood was it oozed over my dresser. Last night I grabbed my stomach. Was that sick bubbling sound going to start coming through from inside me? I burped. Did that mean it was starting? The back of my neck itched. Was it because of a monster oozing through my system? Total panic. That's the only way I can describe how I felt. All morning, I gripped the desktop in front of me with sweaty hands. I kept checking myself out, looking for the tiniest change, the tiniest sign. I tried to force myself to listen to Mrs. Scutto, but now my ears started to win. I kept listening for the monster blood in my stomach to begin to bubble. I should have been thinking about swim team after school. Concentrate, that's what Coach Widows told me. But how could I concentrate when I kept picturing the two men in black? I remembered their warning about how dangerous monster blood was. Really dangerous. And I ate a big blob of it. Thanks to my adorable sister. This morning, dragged by, I skipped her lunch. Trust me, I didn't feel at all hungry. Instead, I went to a locker and checked out my goggles and swim gear for the meet. Actually, I went to a locker to hide. I knew it would be empty. I didn't feel like talking to anyone. I walked out to the swimming pool. The hot, steaming air felt good on my face, and I love the heavy, chlorine smell. I bent down and touched the water. Nice temperature. Concentrate. Mainly, I concentrate on not growing bigger. Walking back to Mrs. Scotto's class, I gritted my teeth and kept my stomach muscles tight, and kept checking myself out every 2 seconds. Longest day of my life. I kept glancing at the clock. Was I going to make it to swim eat. A little before 3 o'clock, my stomach started to bubble and churn. My hands started to itch. I felt hot sweat run down my forehead. It's happening, I thought. I froze in panic and felt a cold breeze in my legs. I looked down. Oh no! My bare legs stuck out of my jeans. Did Mum shrink my jeans? I asked myself, but I knew it better. I knew what was happening. My shirt felt tight. The sleeve pinched my arms. The collar tightened around my neck. My stomach churned. I felt like ocean waves inside me. It's happening, starting to work. My arms and legs each ached. I could feel them growing. The bell rang. I tried to jump up, but I was stuck in my desk. I squeezed myself free and grabbed my backpack from under my chair. The chairs suddenly looked a lot smaller. My trainers pinched my feet. It was hard to move, but I forced myself to run. I heard Bradley call me. I didn't turn around. I ran through the hall, my big feet pounding the floor. I wanted to get to the locker room and change before anyone saw me. Saw that I was growing taller by the minute. My heart hammering in my chest. I burst into the locker and ran up to the wall mirror. Oh wow! I was at least a foot taller. How fast was I growing? I flexed my muscles and felt I looked good, but of course I couldn't enjoy it. No way! I wanted to become a giant freak in front of everyone. Maybe I told myself, if I can get into the pool fast enough, I can hide my big body under the water and no one will notice. I pulled on my swimming trunks so tight I could barely get my legs through them. I tossed the towel over my shoulders. I ducked down low, walked stomping over. Get to the pool, Matt. Get to the pool before anyone sees. Almost to the pool door. Oh, I let out the gasp as Coach Widows stepped in front of me. Hey, Matt, stop right there, he said. You can't go to the pool. I froze. I stared at the coach. I heard my shoulders pop. They were growing. Did he hear it too? A smile spread over Coach Widow's face. You can't go in the pool without me wishing you good luck, he said. He slapped me a high five. We were all counting on you, fella. I breathed a sigh of relief. I started to pass him, but he put out the hand to stop me. Hey, have you grown? He asked. I had to think fast. Yeah. I said, I have been trying to bulk up. Guess it's working. I hurried out to the pool. The hot steaming air greeted me along with the loud voices and shouts. The team from Upper Vermont was already taking practice laps in the water. Their coach was blowing his whistle, shouting encouragements to his swimmers. I saw about 20 or 30 people in the bleachers at the far end. A few students mostly. Parents. I didn't spot my mum. Maybe she got held up, I thought. I waved to the few of my teammates coming out of the locker room. Then I dived into the water. So far, no one noticed how much I had changed. I swam under the water for the lap, getting my body used to the temperature. Then I did a butterfly stroke, loosening up my arm muscles. Halfway across the pool, I stopped. I started to tread water. I suddenly felt very strange. I gasped at my hands. They were huge and grown bigger, almost the size of a baseball glove. I could feel my arms and legs stretching, like someone was tucking them out. My swimming trunks felt stretched to the limit. I had about to pop off. I was growing fast now. So fast could I see it happening. I lowered my feet to the pull button. I was standing at the feet 6 foot tall level, and my head was still above water. Oh no! I realized why this was happening. It came to me in a flash. My ivy plant, monster blood, had dripped onto it, and then I watered it. The plant grew huge after he had watered it, and now here I was in the water, and as soon as I hit the water, I started to grow really fast. I raised my eyes to the bleachers. No Simon's mum. Good, I thought. No way I want her to see me like this. The teams were lining up for the first event. The 500 meters lifestyle, my first event. I saw a fisher in his black and white striped shirt, fiddling with his starting gun. Can I still swim? That was my frightening thought. Am I too big to swim? Can I still do my normal strikes? I lowered my head and began to practice my breaststroke. Wow, I couldn't believe it. My speed was amazing. I felt so strong. I shot through the water like an attacking shark. No human can swim this fast, I told myself. The pool suddenly appeared so tiny. I realized I could swim a length of a pool in 4 or 5 strokes. No way I could lose. I was about to break every middle school's swim record in history. As no one sees this, no one sees that I'm suddenly 8 feet tall. No time to worry about that. I floated into place between my teammates Jake and Kenny. I bent my knees and hunched really low. We flashed each other thumbs up. Then we lowered our heads and got into position. The starting gun roared, echoing off the tile walls. Then race began. I kicked off from a pool wall. I began to pull myself from the water. I reached the other wall in a few seconds and made my turn. The swimmers were still only halfway across the pool. I decided to take it easy on them. I swam in slow motion for the lap, but my arms were so powerful and My kicks had so much thrust. I burst forward like a rocket. This is amazing. I couldn't hold it in. I shouted the words out loud. I never felt so fast, so powerful in my whole life. It was awesome. I was a rocket, a swimming machine, the fastest swimmer in the world, with the 3 laps to go. I went into the full speed. I sped up a tidal wave of water as I passed the other swimmers. How far behind were they? 2 laps, 2 whole laps. I could hear cheers and shrieks and cries of surprise from our bleachers. I glanced up and saw Coach Widdowes at the edge of a pool. He was bent with his hands on his knees, staring at me, wide-eyed, his jaw hanging to the floor. I made my turn and went into the final lap. World record, here I come. Oh, hey! I can feel myself slow down. My arms just began to ache. My hands slapped the water, making a loud claps. My big feet splashed up tall waves behind me. My arms, my shoulders, ached with pain. I struggled to move forward, but I was bobbing on the top of water like the fat walrus. What's happening? I wondered. What's wrong? Go, 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 I urged myself on. Water washed through my hands as they clumsily slapped the water. My arms throbbed with pain. My kicks were sloppy, not strong enough to get me moving. The other swimmers glided past me. I struggled to heave myself forward, but I was too heavy to pull myself any further. It took all my strength not to sink on the bottom. I'm too big. I realize I'm a huge, muscle-bound blob. Swimmers passed me in the blur. Kenny raised his head and flashed me a confused glance as he swam past. My chest ached. My legs throbbed with pain. I knew I couldn't go any further. I didn't have my other strength. Sucking a deep breath into my aching chest, I made a one last clumsy heave, and hit the pool wall. It took a few seconds to hear Coach Widdowes shout. What was he saying? I won. Huh? Did I really win a race? I kept my body low underwater and raised my head, and heard a deafening screams and cheers. Matt, it's unbelievable. You break the whole time record. Coach Widdowes shouted, staring at his stopwatch. Kenny and Jake and my other teammates swarmed around me. They slapped me high fives, splashed and hugged me, and acted like total nuts. Cameras flashed. The screams and cheers went on and on. I shot my fist high above my head and let go the victory cry. Winning a swim match never felt this good. My happiness lasted another few seconds. Then I felt cold dread swept down over my huge body. The cheers faded from my ears. My teammates became a noisy blur. The judge was blowing his whistle. He was trying to clear the pool for next event. That was my first big problem. How did I get out of a pool without letting everyone see that I'm 8 or 9 feet tall? Then I climbed out now, I thought. Everyone will see that I'm a giant freak. A monster? Come on, Matt, Kenny yelled as he headed for a locker room. Let's go, buddy. Coach Meadows smiled. I'll be right there. I waved them both on. I just need to loosen up my muscles. I've got a small cramp. The pool emptied out quickly. The racers in the next event started to lower themselves into the water. I had to move. I had to get out, but how? I had an idea. A desperate idea. I turned away from the crowd, kept to the side of a pool, and started walking to the deep end. I knew the pool was only 8 feet deep. No problem. I was told that for that. I walked to the deep end and glanced all round. No one watching me. They all had their eyes on the new swimmers. I climbed out and dived behind the bleachers. I stood there, dripping water and listened for the startled shouts. No one saw me. Okay, I can do this, told myself. I slipped out the back door and made my way along the empty hall that led to the locker room. I could see the red locker door just ahead. Only a few meters to go. Sip! My tiny swimming trunks ripped and flew off. I backed against the wall, totally naked. The red locker door seemed a mile away, and then I heard the girls' voices in the hall, coming my way. I lurched forward. My wet feet slipped on the floor and stumbled into the door, jerking it open, and disappeared into the locker room. The lights were off. Grey evening light flickered from the high window on the far wall. The locker room was empty. Everyone was at the pool. I made my way through a long row of lockers. I found a locker at the end. I had to bend way down to reach the combination lock. Hard to see the dial in the dim grey light. I was alert to every second. Water dripped in the shower room. A tree branch tapped at the window above my head. Kids were cheering another victory at the pool. I opened my locker and snatched up my clothes, erased my boxers and too small. They wouldn't fit. I wouldn't fit around one leg. Trembling, still dripping water, I held up my jeans and t-shirt. They looked like doll clothes. How can I get home? I asked myself out loud. The words seemed to hum in the damp locker room air. I'm totally naked. How can I get home? My eyes landed on a sack of towels on the bench. Outside the shower room, I picked up the two of them, tied them together, and wrapped them around my wrist. Okay. At least I'm covered. But I still can't walk home like this. My mind raced. I felt so heavy and slow as as if I were still in the water. I stepped up to the mirror. I was too tall to see my head without bending down. And was I still growing? The thought sent a shiver down my body. And then I had an idea. Sometimes scientific brains amazes even me. Okay, this idea was a desperate, maybe crazy, but once again, I pictured my ivy plant. I was pretty sure it was water that made the monster blood work. When I watered the plant, it started to grow, and when I jumped into the pool, my body started to stretch like crazy. So, what if I dried myself out? Maybe I'd shrink. Maybe I could dry myself back to my normal size. My heart started to thud with excitement and hope. This could work, really could. Someone once told me there's a hairdryer in the girls' locker room. I fumbled with the tails around my wrist, made sure they were good and tight. Then I poked my head out into the hall. I heard shouts and cheers from the pool. No one in the hall. My huge bare feet slapped the floor as I darted to the girls' locker room. Carefully, I pulled the door open a crack and peeked in. Please be empty. Please be empty. Anyone in here? I called, tried to whisper, but my big new voice boomed. Silence. No reply. Yes, I crept into the long, dark room. My first thought, it didn't smell sweaty and rank like the boys' locker room. The lockers were all shut. The room was neat and uncluttered, except for the blue backpack resting under the one bench and a pair of red and white trainers next to the wire rubbish bag. What? Wow! Now I never thought I'd be in here. I kept glancing around. What would I say if someone caught me? I hurried to the dressing room in the back. It had a row of sinks and a mirror that covered a wall. I saw two hairdryers hanging above the sinks. My hand trembled as I pulled off his hook. I checked, make sure it was plugged in. Then it clicked it on. The hairdryer whirred to life. I felt the air grow hotter as it shot out of the nozzle. Would this work? Was I a genius? Or had I totally lost my mind? I turned the hot air blast onto my chest. I held it there until my skin started to burn. I aimed it at my arms and shoulders for a while, then bent down and gave my legs a blast of hot air. Then back to my chest. Come on, dry me. I gazed into the mirror. No, nothing changed. I was still a 9 feet giant holding a tiny hairdryer in my big paw. It has to work. I screamed into the mirror. I bent to dry my knees some more. That's when I heard the locker room door squeak open. Oh no, I gasped. I clicked off the hairdryer. I froze there with a dryer in one hand. The other hand gripping the towels around my neck. Twist. I heard girls' voices. I darted away from the mirror and pressed myself against the wall. Too late. A girl called, "Hey, what are you doing there?" I pressed myself against the cold tile wall. I held my breath. "What are you doing?" the girl repeated. "I'm just getting my backpack," another girl answered. "I left it in here after the gym class." "Well, hurry, Caitlin. We have already missed half a swim meet." I didn't breathe until I heard the door close behind them. Then I let out a long rows of air. A close call. I placed the head dryer back on his hook. My big idea was a total flop. I tightened the towels around my wrist. I had to get help. I had to get home and think. I crept through the school quickly and hurried out the back door. The sun had fallen behind the trees. The air was cool and damp. Maybe I thought, if I keep low behind hedges and bushes, maybe I can get home without being seen. Okay, so I'm going to stop here on page 88. So, I guess you found Ghostbusters story me interesting. Yes, I definitely agree. So if you want to what you come to below, please do and give thumbs up if you enjoy it. Okay, guys, so I'm going to take a break and we will definitely continue to move on part 4 of Goosebumps Horror Land Monster Blood for Breakfast. Hopefully we're going to find out more and to read, when listen and learn. Okay, guys, so I'll see you in a short while and also happy Halloween. I'll see you guys a bit.